Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash. So make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
All of you who voted for GB News to win at the Trick Awards for the 3rd year in a row.
So thank you so much for voting for us.
First, and hopefully there'll be a few more to come down the line.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's because of you that we're proud to be the People's Channel. It's because of you that we are Britain's news channel.
Good evening, it's 11 p.m. I'm Ben Leo, and this is Ben Leo Tonight, late edition. Bob Villan has spoken out for the first time since the row erupted over their death to the IDF chants at Glastonbury. We've all heard the clip by now. They released a bizarre statement tonight talking about their daughter's school dinners, but more importantly, doubling down on the sick chant, saying tomorrow is a change in foreign policy. Yeah, me neither. Also breaking in the last few moments, The Times reports BBC staff are ashamed over the incident. It's another day of shame for the broadcaster, of course. Benefits Britain elsewhere in The Telegraph tomorrow. They're reporting the epidemic and this country's addiction to benefits. In some British towns, get this, 1 in 5 people, 20%, receive disability benefits. That's according to new analysis. Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer's still facing a backbench backlash over his welfare bill. That's despite a rollback. And now he's facing another rebellion over the family farm inheritance tax rate. That's according to the Express tomorrow. Elsewhere, a big and pretty interesting story. Indian authorities are investigating the possibility that sabotage could have caused the deadly Air India crash a few weeks ago. The Civil Aviation Minister in India said investigators were examining all possibilities that could have led to Air India Flight 171 plunging from the skies shortly after taking off from the airport there on June the 12th, killing at least 260 people and leaving that one miraculous survivor. On my panel tonight, I'm joined by political commentator Chloe Dobbs, former Labour Party advisor Matthew Torbett, and the former headliner and top comedian Paul Cox. Welcome along to Late Edition. Let's get stuck into the newspapers for tomorrow. The front pages, starting with the Financial Times. The headline reads, Keir Starmer faces backbench showdown despite rowing back over welfare bill. So the government will today mount a last-ditch bid to woo rebellious Labour backbenchers as the crucial vote over controversial welfare reform looms. The Daily Mail. BBC chiefs should face charges over Glastonbury. Outrage growing after the broadcast of the Death to Israelis chant. So Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, is saying that BBC bosses should be facing the full force of the law, pretty much, in the wake of that. I've argued in the last hour, I think that's pretty dangerous territory. The Metro, Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, he has said to Israel today, get your own house in order. He slammed, of course, the chants at Glastonbury, but he said that the Israeli embassy needs to take violence against Palestinians more seriously. The Daily Telegraph tomorrow. Hate rapper from Glastonbury must be treated like Lucy Connolly. We've just discussed that. MPs are urging police to treat Bob Villan chants as incitements to hatred and violence. Goes without saying, if you ask me. Wimbledon kicks off tomorrow. Looking forward to that. And an interesting story here, which we'll discuss imminently. Biological men may be women. That's according to Ofcom. So broadcasters such as GBNews must give airtime to claims that biological men are women when covering trans issues. Stick around for that in the next minute or two. We're going to be talking about it. The Daily Express. Why did the BBC not pull the plug on vile chants at Glastonbury? The Daily Mirror tomorrow. Hottest day of the year. The heat is on. Britain is in the grip of a heat wave with temperatures expected to rise higher than Barbados. So tomorrow, Monday, will be around 34 degrees in some parts. Tuesday, though, brace yourselves, a little bit warmer, 35 degrees. Let us know what you're doing to stay cool. The Eye. NHS weight loss jabs from your pharmacy under new obesity plan. Wes Streeting again says that everybody who is clinically obese should get jabs on the NHS if they need them. The Sun. Sir Keir Starmer's written in tomorrow's Sun saying that there's no excuse for the BBC hatred. He slammed the broadcaster in the wake of the Bob Villan situation. The Guardian. Rebel Labour whip calls for more welfare concessions. The Labour whip, who resigned in protest against disability benefit cuts, has said Sir Keir Starmer's concessions do not yet go far enough to win her over. That says Number 10 launches a fresh attempt to stem the welfare bill revolt. The Times. Prime Minister battles to stave off revolt over welfare cuts. And the BBC boss, Tim Davie, told to get a grip or quit in the IDF chant outcry. Right, let's look at the Daily Telegraph. Welcome along, panel. Paul Cox, hello.
Hello, Ben.
How are you doing?
I'm OK.
Good, welcome along. Let's talk about the story in the Telegraph. So, biological men may be women, Ofcom insists, our friends at Ofcom. Broadcasters must give airtime to claims that biological men are indeed women when covering trans issues. The media regulator has warned GBNews, in a letter sent by the Telegraph, that it could not treat the controversy as settled. That's despite the landmark Supreme Court ruling, which women's rights campaigners were judging as a victory in April. So I'd argue, first of all, before we get stuck into this, I'd argue that GBNews, not just on trans issues, but on pretty much every other issue, we go above and beyond our responsibilities as a broadcaster, more so, I'd say, than any other broadcaster when it comes to giving balanced points of views. In fact, so far that some viewers even get annoyed by it. I argue that it's a good thing. You want to hear all perspectives, all opinions. But it is a matter of a fact that on this channel, for every topic we discuss, we have somebody of one persuasion and somebody from the other persuasion, and that's always been the case. Paul Cox, would you go on air and curtail to Ofcom in the definition of a woman?
Ofcom big fans of the channel, obviously. I'm a big fan of Ofcom, and I would do whatever it takes to keep the pay rolling in, Ben. So, if
you'll say whatever.
If I haven't done, so I have said much to the contrary of what Ofcom has said here on a number of occasions. I would argue, of course, that it's not for Ofcom to tell us what a man and a woman is.
They're saying it's not settled.
Well, it is. It's been settled for thousands of years, and that's the trouble. We've arrived at a point in time where adults, like us around this table, are actually engaging in a conversation where we are trying to help the rest of the nation understand what biological sex is. It's immutable. It's been in place for millennia. It is what it is, and it's very, very unfortunate that in a very small number of cases, people feel that they need to change their biological sex, which they can't do, unfortunately, in order to fit in to society, so that they feel right. I feel for those people, and I think those people's rights should be protected in whatever way they can, but not at not at the risk of losing all trust in what fact is.
OK, can I just read you some colour in this, Matthew, from the Telegraph story tomorrow? First time I've read this, so please bear with me. It's quite small print as well. I'm not going blind. It says, in light of the Supreme Court ruling in April, GBNews wrote to Ofcom and said that the trans issue should therefore be treated in the same way, with no need for opposing views to be heard. So whoever wrote the letter said that the issue was settled. The broadcaster asked Ofcom to confirm that the ruling had settled the matter of the definition of a woman by saying it was defined by biological sex and not gender identity. The station also asked the regulator to confirm that television companies would be able to refer to people such as sports stars solely by their biological pronouns, but Ofcom declined to do so, saying the Supreme Court only ruled on the definition of a woman in terms of the Equality Act and that it did not rule on its meaning in other contexts. So the regulator's decision suggests broadcasters will continue to have to present both sides of the debate, those who believe there are only two sexes and those who believe a person's gender is based on societal constructs.
I don't know if there's a misunderstanding from Ofcom, because I think the difference is, you know, sex and gender, and one is a social construct, one is a biological fact that cannot be denied. And I'm someone that believes that trans people exist, and some really do truly believe they're born into the wrong body. I think it is a very small number, but I believe in evidence and the rule of law. So, you know, the Supreme Court ruled, and I thought, well, you know, that's that. That's it. I suppose, yeah. The only thing I can think they may be thinking is laws change over time. Do we end up going in a different direction in 30, 40 years, therefore it's not settled? It certainly feels settled for now, and certainly for maybe a generation, I'd say. But no, it seems... I suppose the other part of the Equality Act did say, you know, I think with regards to the bathroom incident anyway, you know, that doesn't mean you can prejudice against people that identify as trans, but I don't know if that really fits with the whole TV model. It seems a little bit skew-whiff to me.
So I believe that Ofcom's point was that because the Supreme Court ruling was specifically about the definition of a woman in the Equality Act, which is referring to specific things like bathroom usage, as you've mentioned. This doesn't mean that the broader debate as to whether a man can become a woman is settled. But I think, as you kind of alluded to there, that I think most people, once they got this Supreme Court ruling, regardless of whether it was just referring to the Equality Act or not, felt, OK, this very much is a settled matter. That doesn't mean that there's no debate to be had whatsoever, but I do think that when Ofcom say that something like climate change is a settled matter and you don't need two sides on it, that maybe the same should apply here?
Yeah, Ofcom do say climate change is a settled matter. I mean, again, I'd argue it's not.
We don't seem to do this with any other social construct, though. Do you remember when Rachel Dolezal was outed as a white woman pretending to be a black woman?
Yeah.
We don't have the debate over whether people can change their race, and race and ethnicity are two very different things. But we do so with sex and gender, and I don't know where that sort of comes from. And, you know, I think we should be totally sympathetic and empathetic and, you know, towards people that identify as trans. But it really picks up a head of steam in a way that no other sort of social construct debate does.
Yeah, and I mean, Paul made the good point that this has been settled for, you know, what, centuries. And it's literally only in the past few years that this has become something where we say, oh, maybe a man can become a woman. This is a very, very new phenomenon.
I mean, this conversation alone tells you exactly where we are as a society. This is a microcosm of society here. We're all desperately trying to come up with a new way of trying to describe this after years, some of us, having commented on this. It is what it is. This, by the way, we are the People's Channel at GB News, and Ofcom has its place. No issue with that whatsoever. But we talk about the sort of things that people talk about in their front room, in the pub, in the cafe, with their mates in the van, and these are the conversations that happen. People do not understand this conversation. It's settled in 80–90% of the general public's mind, this conversation. It's done and dusted. It doesn't matter what the Supreme Court say. It doesn't matter what Ofcom say. This is settled. It will never not be settled. Now, the argument really should be around those 10 or 20% of people who are vehemently opposed to anybody saying that a man cannot be a woman or a woman cannot be a man or whatever. We need to be able to have the conversation where, how can we protect the rights of people? I get that, right? I don't want anybody to be victimised. But at no point should any of us have to kowtow. And based on what the government says, even the law says, we as society absolutely understand this is a fact that you cannot change your sex.
Can I ask you, Paul, if, I'm just playing hypotheticals here, if Ofcom said, right, Paul, you have to say trans women are women, otherwise you can't come on air, you lose your job, you're not getting paid, you can't feed your kids, would you do it?
No, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't. I mean, perhaps. I mean, I'd just like to apologise to my family, who will now starve. But I won't say it because it's not what I believe, and I don't think really that's what Ofcom want. What Ofcom are saying here is they want to see a balance. But what they're doing, I think, unfairly, is they're highlighting GB News and saying it's channels like GB News that are part of the problem. We're not part of the problem. We're part of the solution. And the solution is just getting the truth out there. Now, if you do it in a vitriolic or mean way, then you will find yourself in trouble. I've very rarely seen any of that on here. The only time I've seen that is when somebody's just point blank had enough, and they just point out men are men, women are women. It's unfortunate. We're going to have to get on.
In Ofcom's defence, yes, I'll go there. I think, I mean, I don't know any of the background to this aside from the information in the Telegraph article now. Apparently, Ofcom have just responded to a letter that GB News sent them. Right. So that's why they're sort of highlighting GB News, I guess. So they're just responding to the channel. But I think it goes without saying anyway, we would still have both sides of the... Even if it was settled, I think it's settled. Even if Ofcom doesn't consider it settled, and even if they did consider it settled, I think we'd... Well, I know we'd still have both sides of the debate on, because that is the whole premise of the channel. So...
It's one of the only places the debate does happen with both sides of the debate present. It really does. There'll be someone like me, potentially, with a trans person sat there. Now, if there was a trans person sat there now, in no way would I be rude to them at all. And, in fact, I'd go as far as to treat them with the utmost respect, more than I might do anybody else, to make them feel comfortable. But it still wouldn't change my view on that sex is sex.
Yeah. Okey-doke. You bigot.
Yeah, sorry.
Just kidding. Right, let's move on. A very interesting story in Scandinavia. A little place called, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation here, Askerod. It's an estate branded a parallel society under Denmark's controversial ghetto laws. Today, Askerod's population is 54% non-Western, quote-unquote. That's above the 50% threshold that can compel councils to demolish, vacate or sell off social housing. Supporters say the ghetto laws in Denmark have helped integration into neighbourhoods all across the country. However, they are facing an EU legal challenge from people who are affected, who argue that the measures are racist. OK, Chloe, do we need ghetto laws in this country? And if so, which areas of the UK would ghetto laws apply to?
Yes, Chloe.
Your turn to get cancelled now.
I certainly wouldn't call them that, but I do think that we can all very much see in this country that there is a problem with a lack of integration, and that is partly due to the fact that it used to be the case that if immigrants came to this country, they were such a minority that they had no choice but to learn the language and to integrate. Whereas now, if they can go to an area where everyone else there is from their country, they don't have to... I mean, you went to, the street where barely anyone speaks English, right?
It was a street in Leicester where 50... I can't remember the stat. Is it the fewest number of English speakers in the UK? I think just over half spoke English.
Yeah, and if you move to a street like that, then you don't have to learn English. You can get away with it, right? And there are certain areas, like people will talk about Birmingham, for example, where they say it doesn't feel like England anymore. I think it probably would be a good idea to make sure that people mix together, integrate, learn English, get to know each other. So I think this sounds like a good idea, but I wouldn't call it ghetto laws.
What would you call it? Integration
laws. Something like that.
You didn't answer which part of the UK it might apply to.
I said, well, I mentioned Birmingham as an example.
Oh, did you say Birmingham? Sorry, apologies. Matthew, your thoughts?
I don't think we need ghetto laws, but I think it's a potential failure of the immigration system. And I think, actually, the problem is with roads like where you visited, is that is part of the problem. I remember doing a thesis on immigration policy since 1907, years ago now, and the problem is they tend to place people in similar areas because it's the idea of you've got a bit of a community when you already get there. You're not just going to plonk somebody in, you know, Dumfries and one in Middlesbrough and one in Plymouth and stuff like that. If you're from, say, you've all fled from Somalia, for instance, you put loads of people, big Somali community in Cardiff. So we'll tend to place people in Cardiff more. The same with Bangladeshis in Tower Hamlets and stuff like that. So that, therefore, is a problem. I think the pressures on social housing in particular, we've got to have a serious conversation about a prioritisation for those with the, if you want to give it a politically correct term, sort of the closest ties to this country, i.e. British people. I think that's what gets people's back up, the idea that people are jumping the queue ahead of them. You look at somewhere like Brent in northwest London, I think the average wait for a two-bed house on social housing is 25, 30 years. That's just not acceptable. We also need to build more as well, in fairness. That's totally where it comes from. But I think it's a failure of several strands of social policy, I'd say.
See, Yusuf made a very good point on the Trigonometry podcast the other day, where he was saying, if you want to make sure that a kid gets bullied at school, you make sure that that kid gets special treatment. And it's the same here with the social housing. You are going to lead to a situation where you've got resentment and maybe you have genuine racism growing in society. If people see, I've been sat on the list waiting for social housing for years and years and years, some people decades, and someone who just came across here on a boat is now being given...
Do you know,
it's true. Top priority.
My mum and dad had no money, but we weren't poor enough because they worked. I wasn't on free school meals. I couldn't get my head round as a young kid what free school meals were, and all I kept seeing was kids lining up getting their token to go and get food. And I thought, well, I've only been given £2 today because Mum can't afford to give me 3 as per normal. And you build a bit of resentment, and I think that's what happens.
People
resentment
always hate
builds
the
in
teacher's
society.
pet in school, right? And that...
Well, it was never me, I know that. I was all right.
Right, great stuff. More papers coming up in just a tick, but first it's time now for the Great British Giveaway. Your chance to win £54,321, all in tax-free cash. Here's Hayley Sparks with the details.
This is your chance to enjoy luxury this summer. It's our biggest cash prize to date, an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. What would you do with that? With all of that cash, you could just chill out, treat yourself and indulge in the finer things in life, somewhere like here, Downhall Hotel and Spa. You really could win the cash giveaway of the summer. Go on, treat yourself.
For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Very good luck to you. Coming up, we're going stateside to get the very latest news from the United States with former Democrat Party strategist Robert Wiener. He's up next, including Eric Trump spoke to the Financial Times in recent days, well, yesterday actually, last night, suggesting or dropping the biggest hint yet who may follow his father, President Trump, in the White House in 2029. Back in a tick.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
for working class families, what are the fundamentals that they are looking for? They're looking for good housing, they're looking for good schools, they're looking for good jobs that give them a fair day's wage for a fair day's graft, they're looking for a strong NHS, and they're looking for safe communities to live in. When you have all of those foundations in place, then it means that children, young people, they can flourish, they can do well alongside their parents and their grandparents. And I think if you look at what this Labour government has done, we're 10 months into a 5-year programme here, by the way, but in the first 10 months of this new Labour government, they have put major policy reforms in place across all 5 of those key foundations for working class families. And so I'm confident that we're starting to see some of it here in Basildon, where Basildon is starting to get better again. I'm confident that by the end of this Parliament, because of what the government is doing now, we will start to see some positive changes for working class families.
OK, Christo, what do you make of it?
I think that Bridget Phillipson makes a very fair point when she says that white working class families and those peoples are being left behind. But unfortunately, her actions as Education Secretary don't align with what I believe are these completely hollow words. So, for instance, we've seen white working class boys particularly, but now girls, falling behind in education for absolutely years. So why Bridget Phillipson would then bring in a policy that is seeing, by the latest figures, 13,000 private school pupils entering the state school system, why on earth she would bring in that kind of policy, whilst then having the audacity to say that she's worried about white working class pupils not doing so well, is beyond me.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight, late edition, and we are heading stateside, where former Democrat Party strategist Robert Wiener is down the line. Robert, good evening, good morning to you. What's the time where you are?
It is 6:23, but Ben, just a correction. I'm not a former Democratic Party national strategist. I still am.
Oh, you are?
Very much so. I'm a former spokesman in the Clinton and Bush White Houses, however, and a former staffer for Congressman Conyers, Rangel, Claude Pepper, and Ed Koch.
All right, Robert, let me ask you then. I think the decades ahead in America are red. What's your strategy for getting the Dems back on track?
Well, Hakeem Jeffries just announced the latest polls showing the generic 7 points plus for Democrats. Everybody says the Democrats are riding low. They're terrible, except for the fact that the Republicans actually in the generic polls are much worse. And the reason is pulling 16 million people off Medicaid, torturing human beings who's the father of 3 soldiers and making them lie on the floor of an immigrant detention center. You have those kinds of range of issues that Donald Trump is doing. And this isn't Trump derangement syndrome. This is what he's got ICE doing. And it's what the cuts are that are about to be passed in the House and the Senate. So those issues are real. Those are very real when you're taking away benefits. We just did a piece that was covered in the Hearst papers, Ben, and I just want to let our readers know it. And it's out there, and you go to my website, wienerpublic.com, WEINERpublic.com, and you'll see it under op-eds on what the head of OMB, who was one of the authors, Russell Vaught, who was one of the authors and the main one of Project 2025, how he could, as a church person and as a church leader in Trumbull, Connecticut, how could he then steal from the poor and give to the rich and take the benefits and take life-saving health care away from people? And the reason that is there is to give tax breaks to Trump's rich buddies. That's why the Republicans are going to lose, and it's going to be big time. It's going to be a wave.
Right. Okay. So you're talking about the big, beautiful bill, right, Robert? And there was this analysis saying that 12 million Americans would lose their health care insurance under the bill, right?
Well, I know there's another side to it, which says that they're not working and that they are illegal immigrants. I mean, there's every piece of dirt that could be unsubstantiated that's out there that's being claimed. But these are real human beings that are going to be losing health care and dying.
Well, Robert,
and then the Republicans' answer is, who cares? We all die anyway. And let them get over it, by some of the leaders of the Republican Party. Those are direct quotes. So what kind of humanity is that? And people don't like it in America.
Yeah, I mean, Robert, your man Obama put kids in cages in migration centres.
So far fewer than Trump did.
Oh, that's all right then, isn't it? Come on, Robert.
Cages is an overstatement, and Obama has made that point very, very clear. That's not what he did. He didn't put them on the floor with no food. It turns out today, no food, no toilet, and 65 people in the room. He never did that.
Obama dropped more bombs on foreign soil than most presidents put together. Yes or no?
I don't think that's a true statement.
Robert.
I just don't think that's a true statement. It's a silly statement.
Or is it a lag in the line?
But, of course, he won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Of course he did,
Trump
because
of
course he won the Nobel Peace Prize because he's a leftist. President Trump said the other day, you know, right-wingers or conservatives will never win that prize. Let's talk about the Trump situation, the dynasty, Robert, because Eric Trump, his son, who handles the Trump Organisation businesses at the moment, including a very nice golf course in Scotland, in the UK, he told the Financial Times that, well, he dropped a big hint that possibly the door would be open for either Eric or his brother Don Jr. to run for the White House. But he said, in actual fact, we could do it, but there's probably better candidates. Who do you think, Robert, would run for the Republican ticket in 2029?
Well, I'm surprised Ivanka isn't saying I'm jealous, because she actually was the smartest of the batch, and she really has a lot to say and some smarts in her head. So I'm surprised that she isn't the one. Of course, that's who Trump said, if she weren't my daughter, I'd date her.
Yeah, well, did he say that verbatim?
He did.
I mean, in his defense, I don't want to sit here and defend Trump all day. I like the guy as a president, but I think he's just being affectionate towards his daughter.
I think what he did with the bombing was fine, but lying about it and saying that it obliterated everything when his own chief of staff says we're assessing it. And when you see the photo, this is a year of photos, when you see the photo of the 16 trucks, cargo trucks that carried the stuff out of Forgo right before Trump did the bombing, what do you think they were carrying out?
Yeah, I thought we were talking about creepy presidents. We're going from one thing to the next. Yeah, no, indeed. President Trump said on that fact that it was a stunning exchange, actually, in the White House, where he had a go at a CNN reporter for saying, you know, for pretty much insulting, he described it, the great heroes of those B-2 bombers by saying that they missed. Donald Trump was relaying a conversation he had with one of the pilots, who said, Mr. President, apparently, I can't believe that the media is saying that we missed. We didn't miss. I mean, Robert, do you believe that those B-2 bombers would miss?
No, they didn't miss. I think if anybody said that, that's a real overstatement. They did a lot of damage, but there were so many secret sites, and John Kerry said that when he was Secretary of State, there were secret sites that they used, and they were transporting the plutonium off to those secret sites, and they still have the scientists and they still have the knowledge, as people pointed out today. They are still a nuclear threat, and that's a real shame. But he did do some delay of their program, and they may, in fact, want to negotiate. It may serve its purpose. You know, he does some things right. I'm not sure this was a wrong strategy for him to do. And by the way, Democrats and Republicans, every president who does something quickly in the military, when you have to act quickly, says, you didn't use the War Powers Act. But that's the way it works. First, you have to do something quick, and then you go and tell Congress afterwards. What's wrong here is his lying and not telling Congress that this is not an obliteration. It's a start, and it's a major step. That would have been an accurate statement.
OK, Robert Wiener, thank you very much. The reason I hesitated there, Robert, was because last week I called you Robert Weiner, but you made clear the surname is Wiener, so yeah.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
You're Ben Leo, the great young journalist who now has grown up, and you were a star. You were a journalism star baby, and you now have grown to the adult acting part, and you're doing fantastic. So we really enjoy what you're doing, Ben.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it. God bless. Have a good week. Thanks, Rob. Right, OK. Coming up, migrants are trying to come to The UK on small boats have told the Express newspaper they'll be transported for free by traffickers as they can pay off the debt in the UK by working illegally. I mean, I guess we kind of knew that anyway, but it's been told to the Daily Express in some detail. We'll get stuck into that next. And also, on the Times, the dawn of GPT prompts a fall in entry-level jobs for humans. I told you, we've all warned you, robots are coming for our jobs. Give it 20 years and we'll be like the Matrix. Back in a tick.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. High pressure generally keeping it settled for much of the UK. However, we will see weather fronts move in across the northwest, giving some outbreaks of heavy rain. We can see that nicely on the pressure pattern there. This area of low pressure bringing rain to Northern Ireland and Scotland as we move through Monday. Some of this could be heavy, but high pressure keeping it settled further south and east. Through this evening and overnight, generally dry for much of the country. The cloud becoming thick enough for some light rain and drizzle across western upslopes like we've seen over recent nights, and perhaps some more persistent rain reaching the far northwest later. A very muggy night for everyone, temperatures remaining between 15 and 18 Celsius. But it does mean a mixed start to Monday morning, starting across northern Scotland. We already have more cloud here, some outbreaks of showery rain, which one or two bursts could be heavy at times. There'll be some drier, brighter interludes too, and then Northern Ireland also starting on a fairly cloudy note with rain not too far away. Much of England and Wales fairly sunny, some low cloud across the west first thing, but this should slowly start to burn back as the sun rises quickly in the sky. And in that strong June sunshine, temperatures are lifting quite quickly. We could see highs around 34, 35 Celsius towards southeast England. Always cooler further north and west where the cloud is thickest, and we could see some outbreaks of heavy rain across Northern Ireland into northwest Scotland come the afternoon. Some localised flooding starting to become an issue as we move through into the evening time. And that frontal system into Tuesday pushes its way southeastwards, introducing fresher air across northwestern areas, but sunny spells. Still hot and humid to the southeast of this weather front. The temperatures again around 34, possibly 35 Celsius. Under the cloud it remains grey and wet, and then those temperatures falling back near to average for everyone as we move to the middle of the week.
He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight, late edition. Somebody's just tweeted me saying Ben Leo looks like a very young Ed Miliband.
That's not a compliment, Ben, is it?
Bring me the bacon sandwiches, that's all I'll say. Let's look at some of the local front pages hitting our desk tonight, starting with the Scotsman, north of the border. Police are close to breaking as absence figures soar. The SNP blames for neglect amid warning that mental health crisis is being ignored. So coppers in Scotland are at breaking point after more than absences have soared by more than 50%. Lots of them blamed on mental health situations. The Yorkshire Post: unlock growth by targeted £6 billion fund. Experts call for innovation cash to free up a further £206 billion. Targeted innovation funding for Yorkshire in the north could unlock billions of potential, experts claim. And there's a camel here, if you're watching on television. There's a big picture of a camel. It says a couple of... A couple of unusual visitors delight guests at the 137th Moulton Show, an annual traditional agricultural show held in the grounds of Scampston Park, North Yorkshire. And there's a couple of revellers taking a picture with a camel.
How have they got that to Yorkshire, by the way?
Yeah.
Maybe it lives in Yorkshire. Maybe it was.
Aren't camels native to Yorkshire?
Apparently.
Maybe it was imported.
Crazy.
Have you ever heard of zoos, Matthew?
All right.
Nice.
Thanks for that, Chloe. It's late. All right.
It is late. Finally, the Northern Echo, a lack of dentists delay cancer care, life-saving treatment put back due to shortage of NHS surgeries. Lack of dentists delay cancer care. OK, great stuff. Right, should we talk... What are you laughing at, Paul?
Just great stuff. I thought it was great use of great stuff.
A bit delirious. Right, should we talk about... what should we talk about?
Anything you like.
Any suggestions?
Dawn of ChatGPT seems like
ChatGPT, great shout. Right, so according to the Times, the dawn of ChatGPT is prompting a fall in entry-level jobs for humans. So vacancies for graduate roles, apprenticeships, internships and junior positions with no degree requirement have fallen, wow, by 31% as AI is taking over. A concern, Paul?
Yeah, a definite concern, I think, because our economy... What's really interesting, we have a lot of debates about immigration, over-immigration, and why we have immigration the way that we do. And, if you go back to the Blair days, it was all about bolstering the economy and the low end of the economy and how we fed the low end of the economy. These type of jobs, I would hasten to add. So I would say, if we're going to replace these type of jobs with technology, what are we going to do with those people? They're already disenfranchised.
Yeah.
I know I'm supposed to make this amusing, but I just can't, because...
Let's have a joke about it.
There is no joke.
What can you conjure up?
Well, I can, but not Ofcom watching.
Well, you've already been cancelled tonight.
Yeah, I've already been. This is my last show, so I can just say whatever. I can say whatever I like now. But I genuinely, I was reading this while we were talking to Weiner, and
what a
guy! What a guy! And I thought to myself, this is serious business. At some point, we're all going to be replaced. But how does the economy work if technology is the only thing that's working?
I mean, Steve Davies from the IEA, he does genuinely think this is going to happen, and he thinks that the solution is that you have, a universal basic income system. So you have a few people in the top jobs that make all the money, and you spread it all out. And he's normally a free marketeer, but that's the way he thinks it's going. I'm sceptical. I think every time in history there's been a big technology revolution, everyone said the same thing, saying, everyone's jobs are going to be replaced. And typically what happens is you may lose some jobs in the short term, but then in the long run, people's jobs just become new types of jobs.
Well, I mean, firms such as BT have said that they'll replace 10,000 jobs with artificial intelligence. That's 10,000. You imagine that. It's a League One Championship football stadium. That's a lot of jobs, and that's just BT.
It also doesn't, it's not clear here where they say the figure that's fallen by. I'm not sure exactly at what date that's been decided, but it doesn't help when you've got the government for those low-end jobs that are, say, minimum wage or low wage. You've got national insurance being hiked up. You've got minimum wage being hiked up. That means that firms are going to be more willing to say, maybe we'll try and replace that job with AI.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just going to happen. It's happening. This is the problem. And I am happy to be persuaded otherwise, but I can't see anything other than a UBI being potentially necessary.
I think it's so sinister, UBI.
Well, but...
It's communism, though, isn't it, Matthew?
No, because you can still work. This is the thing. So
but why would you?
Basic sort of living allowance, if you will, to ensure people aren't...
The thing I dislike about it the most is, like Chloe said, there's still the big guys at the top earning the money. So there's still controllers. There's still, to take Animal Farm, there's still the pigs. The pigs are still alive. They're still in the house, sleeping in the bed, telling us what to do.
But there's still levers in the sense of... I've heard richer people say, well, who's going to clean my office, for instance? If the cleaners are getting money, they don't need to come in. Well, you either clean your own office or you're going to have to pay them more. Therefore, there's a bit of a barter going on. And if we don't pay people to essentially exist, and there is no money, then I suppose it's neo-feudalism, and the 0.5% of the world that are wealthy enough have the money, and we just work to exist, essentially.
Such a good point, though, about the existing, though. Sorry, Chloe, I feel like I'm taking your time.
No, go for it.
But as a human being, the work that we do is the essence of our being. Very often, we spend a lot of time at work. It gives us our identity.
Yeah.
If that's being replaced by ChatGPT in some way, what is our identity? I mean, most people who are commentators on this particular channel aren't going to be interested in a universal income of any kind whatsoever. It goes against, the essence of us. So I really don't know how we Sorry, Chloe, I really don't know how we solve this.
I'm not saying that UBI is the solution. I do think that is weird, everyone being on the same income. But the argument that proponents of this would make is that that means that you can focus your time not on sitting around on the sofa scrolling on TikTok, hopefully, but you can focus on the arts. Let's say you want to be an athlete, you can focus on becoming a professional athlete. There are a lot of hobbies that we have in our lives that can give us fulfilment that aren't necessarily...
I could play golf every day if someone pays me to. That'd be quite nice, but I think I'd lose my purpose.
The irony is it could possibly do good things for the birth rate, which is slowly dwindling. If there's not a lot to do, people do other extracurricular activities. And
but I hope it never comes to this. I think that would be a very
Labour are going, they're killing off the babies, they're killing off the old people. There won't be any... We won't need that many jobs anyway, will we?
No, and you know the other thing, it will have a knock-on effect on immigration. My first jobs out as a teenager were in retail, hospitality and these sort of jobs. How are we going to prepare people for going into the workplace when they're leaving school if these jobs essentially don't exist because robots are doing them? That's the other knock-on effect.
Yeah, but as I said, Labour is helping get rid of those jobs. So
don't discount that.
You know, especially places like pubs where, you know, when I was 18, that was the first job that I went into, where pretty much everyone there is paid minimum wage. If you've got for pretty much all your staff, minimum wage going up, national insurance going up, and then you've got Angela Rayner's, you know, workers' rights bill saying, oh, we're going to get rid of the 0 hours contracts, which is great for people just starting, students. They're helping accelerate this problem, right?
OK, should we talk about something else? By the way, just on UBI, I will say, for the record, I have to, that I think it is a commie paradise where if you don't get vaccinated or you don't, you know, stop eating meat and you breach your carbon credits and you don't stop slagging off the government on Facebook, then your UBI is going to be cut. So I think it's pretty sinister, actually. Sorry to kill the tone a little bit on a Saturday night, but there we go. That's what I think. But let's look at a story inside The Sun. There is calls for JPs and magistrates to be barred from dispensing, quote, justice by Zoom from their sunbeds while on holiday. Well, they have been banned, actually. I mean, I didn't know this existed. JPs have been ticked off for administering the law while relaxing overseas because they'll be in another country's jurisdiction. And the warning was made after learned individuals were issuing warrants and overseeing cases which don't require court time while on holiday. A source said, we've had JPs in Speedos, bikinis and flip-flops ruling on cases via Zoom. It's not a good look for the judiciary. They've been trying to take their cake and eat it, but now they've been ordered to stay in line. Yeah, probably at the buffet. With magistrates just starting to fly off on faraway jaunts, it's a very timely reminder. Paul, I mean, this is bizarre, isn't it? Magistrates dishing out...
These are the end times, though, aren't they? So every time I hear a story like this, I think, well, of course that's what's happening now. I'm just glad they're wearing Speedos, Ben. The next stage is it's fully naked and they're committing their own crimes. But of course these people should be in the country when they're doing this job. Absolutely, they should, and they're entitled to a holiday. But you know, let's not kid ourselves here. They should be working.
Yeah, I mean, if they are naked, it's probably venturing to sort of OnlyFans territory.
Yeah, I know.
And forget doing the sentence. Any thoughts on this, Matthew?
It's bizarre, isn't it, really? I mean, when did... I understand for certain jobs, you know, more lower-paid jobs, you want to be able to maybe work from home if you can. You can get some stuff done at home. I think a lot of us are overworked and underpaid. If you're a magistrate or a High Court judge who's doing sort of all right, the bare minimum is taking yourself into work. And I think it has a knock-on effect on the economy. There was a bit of a satirical thing of, like, when the pandemic hit, all the prets were going to go out of business. But we are an 80% service-based economy. Yeah. So actually, if you're not going into work and feeding the town centres for lunch and whatever else, well, the town centres are going to go by the wall, even though they sort of are already. It's a nightmare.
Yeah. OK.
Go to work.
Yeah, when I was doing my A-levels, some time ago now, there was like a huge heat wave whilst I was doing them. So I did all of my revision out in the sun, getting a great tan, and it worked. I got my work done.
You're for the judges. Get on holiday.
I'm saying you can be productive on a sunbed. Just to play. Not that I was on a sunbed, but
these Gen Zers, I tell you what.
In the garden, getting my legs
margaritas
tan.
You've had, I guess, for mojitos. I mean, I'm probably 4 margaritas in, not very productive. Anyway, coming up, Indian authorities. This is quite an interesting story. Authorities in India, they're investigating the possibility that sabotage could have caused that deadly Air India crash some weeks ago. More than 200 died. Terrifying and extraordinary footage broadcast all over the internet. Anyway, it could have been sabotage. More details in just a tick.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun. Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
It's going to continue to be very hot across southern parts of the Mediterranean over the next couple of days, but not everywhere is going to see that hot weather. Parts of Madeira, the Canary Islands, seeing a little bit of clouds and blustery winds over the next couple of days. But it's southern parts of Spain, southern parts of France, parts of Italy, Greece that will continue to see those temperatures rising into the mid, perhaps high 30s, maybe even locally the low 40s too. There will still be plenty of sunshine on offer for many though, and those temperatures will be on the rise as we go over the next couple of days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight, latest edition. Now, some news breaking from India over the past hours or so. The Civil Aviation Authority there, or their version of it at least, has said that the deadly crash which took place some weeks ago, killing more than 200 people, we saw the extraordinary footage, they're looking into the possibility, amongst other things, that it could have been sabotage. All but one of the 242 passengers and crew died, and it was that British Indian guy, wasn't it? The miracle how he survived. Unbelievable. He apparently jumped out of the plane just before it hit the ground. I mean, it's the stuff of movies. But yeah, Paul Cox, sabotage. I mean, there's no... So this story is from the Sun newspaper tomorrow. It's inside the Sun. There's no detail of what they suspect could have been sabotaged or who was behind it, but...
Well, you would think that part of any investigation like this, sabotage, is something that they investigate. And it feels to me like they just sprinkled the word sabotage into this story to say they are investigating sabotage. Like, Chloe was talking about watching Air Crash Investigator during the break. Is this the sort of thing, Chloe, that is regular part of air crash investigations? Does sabotage... Surely it's just par for the course, isn't it? Isn't it just fodder at the moment?
Yeah, both engines appear to have lost power in that crash, and apparently that's so incredibly rare that it's a 1 in a billion event. Wow. Are you a confident flyer, Matthew?
Didn't used to be. Not so bad now. Still get a little bit nervous. I think the cynic in me thinks, well, the Tata Group bought Air India from the government for a couple of billion quid 3 years ago now. No one's going to want to travel on Air India. My friends who go back to India say they never travel on it anyway. It's got a bit of a reputation for not being very palatable to travel with. And I just wonder whether sprinkling sabotage in there, as Paul says, is sort of a way of trying to steer attention away from potential failures.
Yeah, I think my impression is that this is probably a case of them not having their safety standards up to scratch. I have seen, since the crash, so many videos on social media of people sharing from previous Air India flights their experiences where, you know, I mean, the arms are all falling off the chairs, they're holding parts of the plane inside together with cable ties and whatnot, cockroaches and all sorts on the planes. So I'm not surprised if this is just a case of them not doing their safety checks.
And it's Tata Group who own JLR, right? Jaguar Land Rover, same group?
I think so, yeah. I think so. So they're going to take a hit, obviously. And I just think any crisis comms will go into public affairs mode and try and smooth over things. So, in a way, though, it's not nice for the families that have been affected to sort of wonder whether somebody's potentially been there and wiped the engines out and whatever else. A little bit unnecessary, but yeah.
The only thing I say about Tata Group is they make lots of JLR cars, Jaguar Land Rover cars, at their plants in India, and I mean, I was once a big fan of JLR, Defenders and Discoveries and so on, Range Rovers, but I have to say, JLR, the quality of JLR cars since going to Tata Group and being made abroad. I mean, the Range Rover Velar, the Evoque, the Discovery Sport, Jaguar F-Pace, all made in India and with some horror stories behind them with regards to reliability.
They made a right mess of the steel plant at Port Talbot as well. I think, you know, they're just money-making grifters who maybe aren't that bothered about the product they're putting out.
Perhaps. All right. Guys, thank you for your company tonight. Paul Cox, Chloe Dobbs, Matthew Talbot, really appreciate it. And thank you at home for being with me all weekend. It's been fun tonight and indeed yesterday. I'm back tomorrow covering Patrick. He's off for the night on Monday. I'm with him, covering for him tomorrow night, 9 till midnight, and then he's back in your capable hands. Thank you very much again. Have a great week next week, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Sweet dreams. Good night.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. High pressure generally keeping it settled for much of the UK. However, we will see weather fronts move in across the northwest, giving some outbreaks of heavy rain. We can see that nicely on the pressure pattern there. This area of low pressure bringing rain to Northern Ireland and Scotland as we move through Monday. Some of this could be heavy, but high pressure keeping it settled further south and east. Through this evening and overnight, generally dry for much of the country. The cloud becoming thick enough for some light rain and drizzle across western upslopes like we've seen over recent nights, and perhaps some more persistent rain reaching the far northwest later. A very muggy night for everyone, temperatures remaining between 15 and 18 Celsius. But it does mean a mixed start to Monday morning, starting across northern Scotland. We already have more cloud here, some outbreaks of showery rain, which 1 or 2 bursts could be heavy at times. There'll be some drier, brighter interludes too, and then Northern Ireland also starting on a fairly cloudy note with rain not too far away. Much of England and Wales fairly sunny, some low cloud across the west first thing, but this should slowly start to burn back as the sun rises quickly in the sky. And in that strong June sunshine, temperatures lifting quite quickly. We could see highs around 34, 35 Celsius towards southeast England. Always cooler further north and west where the cloud is thickest, and we could see some outbreaks of heavy rain across Northern Ireland into northwest Scotland come the afternoon. Some localised flooding starting to become an issue as we move through into the evening time. And that frontal system into Tuesday pushes its way southeastwards, introducing fresher air across northwestern areas, but sunny spells. Still hot and humid to the southeast of this weather front. The temperatures again around 34, possibly 35 Celsius. Under the cloud it remains grey and wet. And then those temperatures falling back near to average for everyone as we move to the middle of the week.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18.